Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay Sporting Goods, the Yider Insurance Group, Angler Qwest Pontoons and Polarcraft Boats, The Forward Corporation, Primal Tree Stands, Shadow Hunter Blinds, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine show right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network. So glad to have you along with us as we once again continue our celebration of the history and tradition of the outdoor lifestyle here in the great state of Michigan and occasionally beyond. My name is Mike Avery, also known as the Big Guy. Not as big as I used to be, but I'll always be a big guy. I mean, I'm 6'5". I'll always be a big guy. And I appreciate you being along with us on this Father's Day weekend. Happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. Happy Father's Day to my father-in-law, Jury, to my son, James, my son-in-law, Ben, and happy Father's Day to my dad, who has been now in heaven now about 4.5 years. So as I think about Father's Day, you know, for many of us, maybe most of us, but certainly not all of us, it was our dads who probably got us started on this path of enjoying the outdoors, of being in love with outdoor activities, maybe even being addicted to the outdoors, as I think some of us are. I think I am. I am. There's no doubt about it. When I'm not sitting here in this microphone, or when I'm not doing something online, you know, dealing with the outdoors, I'm either in the outdoors, hunting or fishing, or talking about the outdoors, or thinking about the outdoors. And I think I have my dad to thank for that. And I think he had his dad, my granddad, to thank for that as well. When I think about some of my best experiences in the outdoors, and some of my best experiences with my dad, they were outdoors. My dad was a cop. He was a cop for 35 years. He was in the Kent County Sheriff's Department. So as a lifelong cop, he wasn't a real touchy-feely kind of guy. I don't think he ever told me that he loved me, but I knew that he did. You know, he had this cop persona, kind of a tough guy, kind of a hard shell. But the best conversations we ever had, the most in-depth, the most honest conversations we ever had, were on a boat, the Peggy J, his boat, salmon fishing on Lake Michigan. It was something about getting there out there on the water that he would drop his, I don't want to say his tough guy act, because it wasn't an act. He was a tough guy. But I would say he would let his guard down a little bit. That was his happy place. He knew he could relax. And out there we could talk. And we could talk about things on the water out there that we would never talk about anywhere else. But he's the guy who got me started fishing. He's the guy who got me started hunting. He's the guy who got me taught me how to pheasant hunt. You know, I was lucky growing up in West Michigan. Back then, we had fields and farms and woodlots and ponds, and our backyard was an outdoor playground. But, you know, he taught me how to go out and stomp on brush piles to push a cottontail out and try to get a shot at it with my single-shot Stevens 20 gauge that they got me for Christmas one year, and it was one of the best Christmases of my life. And I still have that gun. He's the guy who taught me how to search for night crawlers on a rainy, misty springtime night, and then hook those crawlers to a hook with a couple of split shots and drift them down through the holes and runs of Cedar Creek. I know it's Creek. Cedar Creek, or Duke Creek, or later on the Rogue River for trout and steelhead. He's the guy who taught me how to troll for salmon on Lake Michigan. So I in a lot of ways, I have him to thank for sending me down this path that for 40 years now has worked out pretty well for me. So thank you, Dad. I appreciate that. And it's wonderful to see how this outdoor heritage, this outdoor passion has continued down from generation to generation. As I said, my grandpa was a hunter and angler, and he taught my dad how to hunt and fish. I am, and I'd like to think in some ways that I played a role in teaching my son James how to hunt and fish. Now, I will tell you right now that he has surpassed my ability and my expertise, of which I have none, in the outdoors. He is a better hunter and angler than I am. And I take pride in saying that. But I did have the opportunity earlier this past week to get out on the water with James and my grandson Addison and do some walleye fishing on Saginaw Bay aboard the Angler Qwest. And it was wonderful. But he's a great dad. He is a wonderful father. And it was so fun to be out there on the water watching him work with Addison and remind her how to do things. Because I think this was her first fishing trip of the summer. So, she's fished a lot, but she, needed some refreshers on what to do out there. And he was very patient with her, and he just was, it was wonderful. And it was great watching him pass this outdoor heritage down to another generation. And he's done the same thing with my grandson, Trent. So anyway, the point is, and I got off track, Happy Father's Day. What else? A couple of interesting things happened to me this week. I was out on Saginaw Bay, not that day with James and Addison. I was out there with my friends Tony and Brent. And we were a few miles offshore, and it was one of those dead, calm, flat mornings. I mean, not a hint, not a breath of wind. The bugs were starting to come up as it started to get a little bit warmer. I thought, boy, this is going to be a hot, miserable, muggy, dead calm, flat day on Saginaw Bay. We've seen them, Lake Michigan, Lake Ontario, wherever. You've seen them if you've been out there enough. There's not a cloud in the sky. There's no weather forecast predicting it. There's no thunderheads. There's no storm front coming in. Nothing. Dead, calm, flat, bluebird sky, a little bit of haze, nothing. And all of a sudden, like somebody flipped a switch, the wind started to blow from the northeast. And I mean, it didn't just gradually pick up. It was like, boom. On this flat water, the ripples started to form. The temperature dropped 10 degrees immediately. And it started to blow out of the northeast, out of the blue. And in about 10 minutes, there was a good chop. And it continued to blow and blow hard, and it built up quite a pretty bumpy day out there. And as soon as this happened, a lot of the guys in the smaller boats, and I don't blame them because we're several miles offshore, picked up and they started to run in. And I don't blame them. Now, I stayed out there because the Angler Qwest can handle it. I can handle it. My crew could handle it. We did eventually run in closer to shore and do some fishing in there. But the point is, when you're out there, you got to keep an eye on things, and you've got to trust your ability and your equipment, and you've got to have respect for Mother Nature. Again, there was no sign that this was coming. Keep an eye on things. When you're out there in Mother Nature, she always has the final say. So that was pretty cool. The other interesting thing that happened, I'm a gun guy. I'll admit that. I like guns. I am pro-gun. I think everybody should have guns, and I think everybody who is responsible and has the inclination to do so should be able to carry a gun to protect themselves and their family. Having said that, we went to downtown Detroit last weekend. Went down there to celebrate my daughter Shelby's birthday. And she said, Dad, I want you to go to downtown Detroit and let's take a look around. I want you to see the new Detroit. She said it's a really great, vibrant place and safe, because I had said, I'm not a real fan of you going to court down there in downtown Detroit, because she's a lawyer. And she said, Dad, don't worry about it. It's not the Detroit you remember. I haven't been to downtown Detroit in years. She said, come on down. We'll have dinner. It'll be fun. So knowing it was a birthday celebration, I'll be honest with you, I expected I might have a beer throughout the afternoon, so I kept my gun locked up in the glove box of my truck in the ramp. So we're standing out in the street corner waiting for her, Shelby and her boyfriend to pick us up. And down the street, across the street, but coming our direction, I see two guys dressed in black fatigues, one of them with a helmet on, both of them with body armor on. They got tactical belts on. One of them's carrying an AR-15, and the other one's carrying some sort of, I don't want to call it an assault rifle, but it was some kind of a black rifle longer than an AR-15 that I didn't recognize. And these guys are open carrying down the street in full battle rattle, body armor, carrying long guns. And they weren't cops. And I thought, why is my gun up there in the truck? I don't think they were looking to cause trouble. I think they were just open carry guys looking to make a point. But I have to question that. Just because something is legal, does that make it smart? Does open carrying and wearing tactical gear in an environment like that, does that actually help the gun cause, the pro-gun cause? Does that help us as gun owners? It got people's attention. Absolutely it did. Was it legal? Yes. Was it smart? Yeah. Always be prepared, my friends, but open carrying an AR-15, wearing tactical gear in downtown Detroit in the middle of the afternoon, does that help the cause? It did get my attention. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. Lots more coming up. Stay with us. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Alpena on WZTK. That's 105.7 FM. You can hear us in St. Joe on WSJM 94.9 FM. And north of the bridge in Newberry, WNBY 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by the Linwood Beach Marina and Campground. Linwood Beach can be your year-round Saginaw Bay fishing destination and your Mid-Michigan Tracker and Angler Qwest headquarters. Great boat launch, great ship's store, marine service, campground, great people, great location. What more could you ask for? Check them out online at linwoodbeachmarina.com. That's linwoodbeachmarina.com. Hey, a quick follow-up on my comments about running into a couple of open carry guys over the weekend in downtown Detroit. I will tell you that after that first experience that got my attention, it was a lot of fun. I haven't been in downtown Detroit for many, many years, and I was very impressed. I felt very safe, very clean, welcoming, a lot of people, just a wonderful environment, restaurant, dinner at a wonderful restaurant. So I was very, very impressed. So I don't want to give you the impression that it was a bad experience at all. It was a very, very good experience, and I would be more than eager to go back down there and have an afternoon or an evening out once again. Okay, I got word this a couple of days ago. Listen, I don't pretend to be a bass fisherman, so I'm not in tune with what's going on in the bass fishing world. But I do know that Michigan is a hot spot for bass fishing across the country. We have some of the best bass fishing in the country, and as an example of that, Bassmasters has come to Saginaw Bay with their collegiate and high school tournament to take advantage of this resource. And Hank Weldon is the tournament director for those events, and he joins us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Hank, welcome to the show. How are you?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Hey, so listen, Hank, tell us a little bit about what is going on right now. As we are recording the show midweek, you guys are just kicking off. But tell me more about this event.
Yeah, that's right. So kind of a couple of different events, like you said. We've got our fourth tour stop, the Carhartt Bassmaster College Series. This is presented by Bass Pro Shops. Kind of the final event. You know, we started all the way back in March down in South Carolina, and we're wrapping up the final stop for that season, the tour stops this week, and that ended on Thursday, and then today will be the high school series, the MUCC Fishing Bassmaster High School Series, and the Junior Series. So really, it's just all our youth platforms. If you're in second grade or higher, all the way through college, we've got a tournament for you to compete in this week.
Second grade. Start them young,
That's crazy,
Hank?
Right? Yeah. That's right. That's right.
So listen, tell me more about this. I think this is fascinating that there are organized bass tournament events at that level. Where do these kids come from, and how good are they?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you'll see it. I mean, with the college series, we'll talk about that right now. You're looking at, I think we have 75 different schools that are competing. It's 167 boats, 2 people to a boat, from 30 different states that are that were here in Michigan competing. And then in the high school division, it'll be right at 100 boats. More local. There are some teams as far away as like Tennessee and Alabama. But a lot of the Michigan schools are competing in this one, and same thing for the juniors as well.
Does this lead then to some kind of a national championship?
It does. So all of them do. The college series leads to the national championship, slated for early August in Waddington, New York, on the St. Lawrence Seaway. And then the high school division, it leads to that national championship, which is on Lake Chickamauga down in southeast Tennessee. And the junior championship, which is in October in western Tennessee on a lake called Carroll County Lake in western Tennessee, just a trophy bass fishery. But yep, all lead to the championships. We just wrapped up our Bassmaster Classic last week down in Fort Worth, Texas, on Lake Ray Roberts, and it was the second highest attended classic in history for bass, and had 147,000 people attend that event.
Wow.
And the college series, we actually pit an angler in that classic. So there's a lot up for grabs, especially for all of them, but for the college series, definitely. And then with the high school championship, that'll be about a 330-boat tournament later in July. And you're looking at top 10% of anglers from all over the country and even the world. We have anglers from South Africa and Zimbabwe, and we've had anglers from Mexico, and we're working on some other countries too. So yeah, pretty big deal.
Well, and Hank, you bass guys you've dialed into this. You've got this figured out. You've turned this into something bigger than any other group of fishermen has. Far bigger than the walleye guys, bigger than the trout and salmon guys, bigger than the crappie guys, bigger than the saltfish guys. What is it about what you're doing that has resonated so strongly with people?
I'll tell you, and thanks for the kind words. The one of the bigger things with our success is what we call our Bass Nation, and grassroots all over the world, really, but especially in the United States. We have, from the youth side, we have what we call youth directors in each state, and the one here in Michigan, Brett Straffen, does a fantastic job. And each youth director is tasked to run the in-state initiatives, and then we can come in and bring a national tournament, which is what this is, to those states. And, we gravitate towards the states that are very organized and have a lot going on. And Brett's a great job and an example of what their team can do here. But that's probably one of the keys. And just being organized in the schools and offering platforms and events for them to fish. It's a team effort, and we certainly couldn't do it without those fine folks really all over the country that help us get this going.
And I think bass is kind of a ubiquitous fish. You're everywhere. Where the other species I talked about, you might have hot spots here and there, but you can find bass. It seems like everywhere.
Yeah, that's 100%. And we try to help lead the charge on conservation and helping the fisheries by whether that means better access for anglers or habitat or whatever that may be to try to protect the bass. But you're right. I mean, there's really only 2 states in the United States, to my knowledge, that don't have bass in it, and that's Alaska and Hawaii. So, other than that, they swim in the States, and we love to chase around and catch them and weigh them and let them loose so they can be caught again. Well,
and you guys did pioneer the whole catch and release thing, too. You were way ahead of the curve on that one.
Yeah, it's what our group has been able to do, and grateful for that. And yeah, I mean, I think it dawned on bass back in the in the early 70s, it's like, hey, we need to make sure we can catch these fish again, so we all have jobs. But so we have a passion to keep chasing. But Gene Gilliland, our conservation director, he's great with what he does, and we're doing the same thing here. We have our Yamaha Avco live release boats here, and all these kids that bring in these fish from all over the bay, we'll put them in those boats and take them back out to various places and release them so they can be caught again.
Hank, have you done any studies on the catch and release rate? And when you let these fish go, does it matter if you release them roughly where they were caught, or could you reposition them anywhere and they'll be okay, anywhere out there in the bay and they'll be okay? Right.
Yeah. So, there's some studies, and, we've done some crazy studies. I think that one time we tagged an 8-pounder caught at Toledo Bend Lake. I know it's kind of relevant, but not. In the springtime, and that fish was caught 40 miles from the boat ramp where it was released the very next year in the same pocket, spawning on the same stump. But no, so what we try to do is, with our live release boats, 1,200 gallons of water flowing into these things. We cool the water down with ice, but we monitor that temperature. It's very specific. You don't want to get 10 degrees cooler than your surface water temp. But then we've got pure oxygen pumping, not just air from the outside. We actually bring in oxygen tanks and fill the water with that, and that gives them a good jolt of energy. And then so what we do, and then if they need fizzing, whatever they need to be done to them, and then we go out and find deep water to release these fish. So when I say deep water, it's relative, but out here it's not too hard to find. There's 30, 40 feet of water to find to release these fish in multiple locations. So we have 4 tanks in each boat, and we let them go. So what Bass's goal is at every tournament is a 98% or higher release rate. If we get below 98%, that's below our standards, and we have to adjust, and that very rarely happens. So
yeah, pretty impressive.
We're geared
numbers.
up, ready to go. Yeah, it's something. It's not an exact science, but we feel like we've gotten pretty good at it, and if there are some mortalities, we always donate those to a local charity so they can be used, properly, and obviously per the law. But we try to take care of, make sure the ones we do lose are put to good use.
Hank, how does let's talk about the collegiate tournament for a minute. I'm thinking, how do a couple of college guys come up with $100,000 bass rig and travel around the country, or is it not like that? I mean, logistically, how do these kids pull this off?
It's so wild to think about what the college series has become. I mean, back when I was personally fishing in the mid 2000s, I mean, we were putting duct tape on things just to try to keep it up together and running. But you're right. I mean, there's schools out there. I was talking to one coach today. I mean, he has a scholarship budget on what he can reach with offering kids scholarships. They have school-owned boats. I mean, we've got schools now that are putting a lot of money into this fishing. And, for the schools out there that don't have scholarships, they're getting good sponsorships. A lot of them do have their personal boats that I wish I could tell you I know how they pay for it, but, I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah.
But you do see the mix. You see the 2021 rig, and then you see the 1989 rig that comes through, and that's kind of what I like for college, because sometimes that 1989 rig does better than the 2020 rig. It's the kids that are trying hard to get out on the water at any and all costs to catch those bass.
We're talking with Hank Weldon of Bassmasters about the collegiate and high school tournament here in Michigan this week. Hank, is the website bassmaster.com? Is that where we should go to keep an eye on this?
That's all. Yeah, very simple. Bassmaster.com, and there'll be what we call our WIM, our web event module at the top of the website, and you can click on the college link or the high school link. We've got actually real-time leaderboards running, and while they're out on the water, approximations, but they're telling you, what they think they have, and fishing's pretty good. I mean, like you said.
All right, Hank. Hey, listen, hang on. I want to follow up on that, and we will talk about this world-class bass fishery here in Michigan after the break with Hank Weldon of Bassmaster. The website, bassmaster.com. That's bassmaster.com. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Traverse City on WTCM. That's 580 AM. You can hear us in Tawas on WIOS. AM and FM, 1480 AM, 106.9 FM. And north of the bridge in the Sioux on ESPN 1400 WKNW. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Boning Archery. Michigan-based Boning has been a leader in the archery industry since 1946. That means this is their 75th anniversary. How cool is that? To survive 75 years is impressive, but to lead and innovate and come up with new products and new designs and new technology for 75 years is so very impressive. I'm very happy for the folks at Boning. I will send you to their website, boning.com, Bohning, boning.com, to learn more about what they have planned and to learn more about Boning and their products. Boning.com. Congrats on 75 years in the archery industry. Also, a big congrats to the folks at Bassmaster. Bassmaster.com is the website. Bassmasters has been promoting the sport, the lifestyle of bass fishing, of catch and release, of encouraging people to get involved in the outdoors, competitive fishing for many, many years. They are in Michigan this week with their high school and collegiate tournament on Saginaw Bay. Hank Weldon is the tournament director for that, and he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Hank, what was it about Michigan? What was it about the resource, the fishery, that brought you guys here?
Well, yeah, that's exactly right. We've had several tournaments on St. Clair. And, we knew we wanted in the Muskegon, and we knew we wanted to come to Michigan. And we were looking at St. Clair and Traverse City, and then we were like, Saginaw Bay, that looks interesting. And the thing that was interesting, too, is from a national tournament level, we don't know if Bassmaster, it doesn't look like it has ever been here. We may have had a few weekend series tournaments here back in the day, but from an elite series, opens, whatever you would call it there, this is the first time we've ever been to Saginaw Bay. And we knew it was a great smallmouth fishery, but also a largemouth fishery too. And it's showing out. I mean, it's these are going to be some great events, some big weights. And we were in Fort Worth last week, and it was 85 degrees at 3 a.m. And I don't think we've gotten to 85 degrees since we've been here. So we're loving that too.
Well, you mentioned Lake St. Clair, Muskegon, Traverse Bay, now Saginaw Bay. There is some good bass fishing here in the North Country, isn't there?
Oh, it's fantastic. I mean, personally, I would love to live here in the summertime. Maybe not in January, but in the summertime, absolutely.
Yeah, that'll change your perspective in a hurry. So, listen, we talked about how the collegiate kids do this, and when we get to the high school level, are they actually out there by themselves in a boat, or do they have, I'm going to say, an adult with them throughout the events? How does that work?
Right, yeah, so that's right. So they can practice by themselves if they're of the legal age and have the legal documents to operate a boat. But once the tournament starts, they have to have a boat captain outside of the years of high school. Take them out. Usually it's a parent. And so they have that boat captain with them, and we call them a captain or a coach. And that person's designed to coach and drive the boat, not necessarily the trolling motor, but drive the boat and coach the kids on catching fish. But the kids are the ones catching the fish and getting them in the boat and bringing them in to weigh in.
I just think this is so, cool that a kid, if he's serious about it, can at some schools get a scholarship for fishing these days. Charlie Root, who is here in the studio with me, and I were talking about this during the break. Heck, if you can get a scholarship to play a video game, why not get a scholarship to go bass fishing, right?
That's right. And I don't know if you guys saw it, but we announced earlier this year that we are holding the first ever high school combine. So it's like the NFL combine later in the fall this year, where the kids are going to come in and try out in front of coaches and everything. It's going to be crazy for fishing.
Again, you guys at Bassmaster are leading the way, and I have such respect for what you've done. And listen, thanks for coming to Michigan for this event. We appreciate it.
I promise you, it's so gorgeous, and the fish are biting so well. this was going to become a regular. It may not be, college and high school, but we love Michigan, and we will certainly be back for many, many more tournaments.
So what you're saying is we might see a higher level event here sometime in the future?
I think that's always a good chance. Absolutely.
All right, Hank, we'll look forward to that. The website, Bassmaster.com, Bassmaster.com. Have fun, and we'll keep an eye on things online. And if we're in the Bay City area, we'll swing by and check it out.
We'll be here. Thank you, guys.
All right, Hank Weldon of Bassmaster, Bassmaster.com. I love the idea of, well, I do know, I know that there is, college-level bass fishing. In fact, I help sponsor the CMU bass fishing team, so I'm aware that it's out there, but the whole scholarship thing, and I just think that's very cool. I used to think of bass fishing as only a southern sport. I didn't, again, in my naivete, even ignorance, just never having been a bass fisherman, didn't realize what a tremendous resource it is here. So to get some national attention on our bass fishery here in Michigan, I think is very, very cool. And thank you to Bassmaster for helping to put a spotlight on our bass fishery here in Michigan. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, Tom Campbell of Woods-n-Waternews checks in. At least I think so. I didn't get I texted him earlier. I didn't get a response, but he's usually very, very reliable. They are going ahead, guns blazing, no pun intended, with plans for their big outdoor weekend coming up in September, and we'll check out the latest edition as well. Coming up in hour number 2, we'll turn from bass fishing to walleye fishing with Brad Dupuie of Angler Qwest Boats, and also they've got some design changes for the new year coming up. We'll see if I can sneak some of that out of Brad coming up in hour number 2. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Battle Creek on WBCK. That's 95.3 FM. And you can hear us in Caro on WKYO 1360 AM and WIDL 92.1 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by MUCC's On the Ground program. OTG is a program to improve habitat for fish and wildlife across the state. For details, check out the Michigan United Conservation Club's website. That's MUCC.org, MUCC.org. While you're online, check out my website, please, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, and head on over to woods-n-waternews.com, which is, of course, the website of Michigan's premier outdoor publication and has been so for more than 30 years now. Tom Campbell, one of the guys behind Woods-n-Waternews, with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Tom, welcome back. How are you?
Great, Mike. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Doing just great. And I don't know, I'm enjoying the summer, but I have to admit, and I'm not wishing the summer away, but I got to admit, I'm starting to, in the back of my mind, getting this kind of pulling towards fall. And, of course, fall used to mean the big outdoor weekend.
That's right.
And I think we're going to have it this year again. All right.
You got it. Everything holds true, Mike. We are planning it, and it's looking great. We're getting a tremendous amount of interest from our exhibitors, so that's exciting. And we're looking forward to September 10th, 11th, and 12th at the Eastern Michigan Fairgrounds in Emily City. Yeah, should be a great time.
So was there just the 1 year you missed of this, or was there?
Yeah, we were lucky. Yes, we only missed last year, 2020, and we didn't. We went all the way up to July, really, before it was apparent that we had to pull it, had to cancel it. So. Yeah, it was a tough decision. I mean, it was a no-brainer decision.
Well,
you had to do it, but so it's great to be back on track now, and we're looking forward to it. And I think everybody's going to be excited, and we're going to do our best to make it the best ever. So.
I think it will be the best ever. I think you're going to have the biggest crowds ever. I think you're going to have more people wanting to get in, and just we missed it so much, and you guys missed it, and your vendors. I mean, your vendors look at this as a tremendous opportunity to get their products and services in front of people.
Yeah, exactly right, Mike. The only problem our exhibitors have, and of course, as you know, is having product, and making sure they got product to come. It's still cursing some of them, but I think by then things will hopefully level out, and everybody will be excited, and There'll be plenty to pick over, and there's going to be plenty of stuff to do and learn, and great seminars and all that great demonstrations. So there'll be something for everybody at that outdoor weekend for sure.
Yeah, a lot of demand for outdoor gear and products this year, and just a lot of demand for the outdoors. I mean, again, we've talked about this before. That's one of the benefits of COVID is getting people involved in the outdoors, and you guys thrive on that because that's the basis of your business.
Exactly right. Yep. And in fact, we're putting out the July issue is going to our printer right now, Mike, as we speak. So this weekend, as we talk and people hear us, they should be able to find it at their favorite newsstand or shortly. Our drivers do need a little bit of time, or it should be in their mailbox next week. So, we address that with. We had 3 young kids take beautiful turkeys and just to read what their dad had to say about how, it just made you think, man, this is fantastic. We need to do more of this. We need to, promote these kids as recruiting tools and show what fun and the smiles on their face and we need to really start recruiting our hunters and fishermen. And I think we're, like you said, the COVID's really helped. Got them outside, we got them outdoors. Now we just got to keep them going and keep recruiting them into everything. And I think it's fantastic. And we're going to do the best we can to push that.
Well, and you do a great job. Aside from the story on those kids with those big birds, what else is in this latest edition?
Well, I tell you, Mike, it's off the beaten path a little bit, but it's just got my mind boggled. Terry McBurney, who has been writing, a sporting collectible piece for us really since we lost George Ritchie years and years ago, who George did it for years. But so Terry's written a piece. Of course, he did one a few months ago about an Oscar Peterson fishing decoy that sold for $42,000, and that was just kind of what the heck. Get this, Mike, a new one just sold at auction, a special 20-inch yellow perch sold for $114,000, Mike.
Wow.
I think we should have started whittling when we were younger.
Man, we could be millionaires by now.
Oh, it's incredible. I just, I guess that's, and I've seen that too through this pandemic, how collectibles have become so big again and collections. So it's fantastic. So, and again, this could go back to our outdoor weekend, Mike, because Terry McBurney's there every year. He encourages people to bring that old tackle box that's in the corner of the garage that your grandpa gave you, bring it in. He'll evaluate, he'll appraise it. He'll let you know what he thinks they're worth, and he does buy some things, but, it's another service of the outdoor weekend. And who knows, you could have one of those Oscar Peterson decoys in your possession and not know it. It's incredible. So, yeah.
Well, Tom, keep up the good work. And I'm so glad to hear that the outdoor weekend is going to be up and running. The website, woods-n-waternews.com, woods-n-waternews.com. Thank you to Tom Campbell, as always, for checking in. We will take a break here now for the top of the hour. When we come back, we'll check in with Brad Dupuie of Apex Marine. He's got some walleye dialed in this summer where a lot of anglers, myself included, don't quite have that to be the case yet. And also Ian Fitzgerald of MUCC will check in hour number 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay Sporting Goods, the Yider Insurance Group, Angler Qwest Pontoons and Polarcraft Boats, The Forward Corporation, Primal Tree Stands, Shadow Hunter Blinds, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine show right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network. More than 24 AM and FM stations across the great state of Michigan. And I am so glad to have you along with us as we continue this celebration of the outdoor lifestyle here in the great state of Michigan and occasionally beyond. On Father's Day weekend, again, happy Father's Day to you. Happy Father's Day to my father-in-law, Jury, my son, James, my son-in-law, Ben, and happy Father's Day to you as well. I hope you get a chance to do exactly what you want, whether that's out shooting, doing some fishing, or maybe just sitting with your feet up watching a Sunday afternoon movie. Whatever you want, it's your day, dads, and I hope you get a chance to enjoy it. This is a radio show. It seems crazy that I have to say that these days, but it is a 3-hour radio show broadcast on stations across the state of Michigan. I say that because the line is getting blurred these days between broadcasting and podcasting and social media. It's all kind of melding into the same thing these days. But it really is kind of a big deal to have a statewide outdoor radio show because there aren't many of them out there. God has blessed me with the ability to do this. Now in my 40th year in broadcasting, and you know what? I think I got a few more years in me. Unless the big guy up there has some plans for me that I don't see coming, and that may well be the case, I'm going to be doing this for a while. I love this. It rejuvenates me. It gives me a sense of excitement to walk into this radio studio every week. I couldn't do it, though, without you, so I do appreciate your support. I do think the best way to listen to Outdoor Magazine Radio, if you can, is on your local radio station. But if they don't carry all 3 hours of the show, or if you live in some part of our state not covered by the broadcast signal, there's always the option of listening to the radio show as a podcast. And this is where things get confusing. I don't think, I get it because I'm in broadcasting, but I think the average person these days doesn't make a distinction between a radio show and a podcast. But that's okay because I do a podcast version of this radio show that you can listen to as a backup. Where did you hear it? On the website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. We're going to do a little revamp of that website coming up here in the next few weeks. You can also hear it on my Facebook page, on Amazon Music, on Audible, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher, Player FM, DeezerRadio.com, and I even put the podcast on YouTube. I know, doesn't make any sense. It's an audio show. Why do you put it on YouTube, Avery? Well, because people listen to it / watch it on YouTube. Also, I need to put in a plug for the Outdoor Magazine Outdoor Magazine Podcast Network. Each month, I produce podcasts for Jay's Sporting Goods, Offshore Tackle, Angler Qwest Boats, Killer Food Plots, Polar Craft Boats, and Shadowhunter Blinds. In fact, when we're done here in the radio studio, we're going to record this month's Angler Qwest podcast with John Bergsma, noted television fisherman here in Michigan. Speaking of Angler Qwest, I've been working with this company, several years now, since they came out with that very first prototype Angler Qwest. I've fallen in love with the design, with the concept. I think they're a very interesting company, a Michigan-based company. You should know that by now, based in St. Louis, Michigan, a family-owned company, which makes it even better. Recently, a couple of years ago now, acquired Polar Craft Boats, so they've got everything covered. But one of the really neat things in my mind about working with Angler Qwest / Apex Marine, the parent company of, is I've got a chance to get to know and I think become friends with Mr. Angler Qwest himself. His name is Brad Dupuie, and he is the guy and he's had a lot of help from others, and he'll be very, very open to give these other people support. But he is the guy who came up with the original concept. He is the guy who fishes an Angler Qwest constantly, and he is the guy who continues to evolve and improve the design, and that's why we call him Mr. Angler Qwest. And he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Brad, welcome back. How are you?
Hey, we're doing great, Mike, and I'm proud to call you my friend as well, and I'm glad to have you on board talking with a fellow sportsman as passionate as myself about the outdoors and, of course, Angler Qwest.
Well, you guys have done, and I appreciate you saying that. And yeah, my passion is there, absolutely. but I can't even say it with a straight face. But my ability to catch fish like you are this summer, Brad, is a whole different ballgame. Man, you've got those fish dialed in this summer.
Oh, I tell you, it's been a great year. But to your defense, things are quite a bit different out there this year. And as we all know, your shallow water abilities and your shallow water desires are tough this year due to the clear water, heavy weed conditions. And for me, since Memorial Day, we've been absolutely blasting them, and it's been great fishing. The fishing has been awesome, and with bigger fish this year. So far, it's been going really good, Mike.
You know, I'm actually looking at this whole lack of a skinny water fishery this summer as somewhat of a blessing, because it forces me to get out of my comfort zone, and it forces me to fish in areas where I don't normally spend a lot of time, and to use tactics and techniques that I'm not used to, which, you know, I mean, the more tools in our tackle box, pun intended, the better off we are. So it's actually a good thing. But you this year have been really looking at those deep fish, those fish down on the bottom, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, for a few years now, I've called it dredging, because we're absolutely been dredging the bottom. I've seen that trend over the last few years here, and I always target those fish on the bottom. And I actually don't like fish in a zone unless I have some fish on the grass that are on the bottom. And as you know, those fish move up and down all day. And then this year, with our clear water conditions, and especially if we don't have a good chop, boy, those fish have been stapled right to bottom. So it's been very, very prevalent this year. I've been running, at times, my whole spread within the bottom 5 feet.
Well, this is very interesting, because traditional knowledge would tell us that the fish are laying on the bottom because they're inactive, and the ones that come up and suspend up in the water column, those are the ones we want to target. But you're saying that's not the case this year at all.
It isn't. I am taking some high fish now. In the last probably 3 or 4 trips, we've taken some fish very high, but I believe those fish on that bottom have been so prevalent this year. It's just been a trend over the years, and this year it really, really is showing true to form. And that bottom fish, for me, I do a lot of fishing by myself too. And when those fish are suspended, it takes me sometimes an hour or 2 to figure out where those fish are at. I can only run 3 rods, but what I like about the fish being on the bottom, I'm by myself. I can run those baits right off the bottom, all 3 of them, so I know right where they're at immediately. And it helps me as a solo fisherman be a lot more productive just with my 3 rods. So that has been a nice thing for me, is I'm putting those baits in the bottom 5 feet and stroking that bottom. And that's been very good this year, Mike. Absolutely.
Now, will you set up and fish the bottom if you don't mark fish, or do you wait until you see fish down there?
I've been waiting till I see fish down there. I've been really working a heavy break ever since Memorial Day, and the fish have been there on the bottom all along. So right now, I did go through some other areas and tried targeting fish that were not on the bottom, and I didn't have as much success. For me this year, what I'm looking for, along with some pods of bait and fish up in the mid-water column, I absolutely am looking for those fish on bottom, because I believe that's where they're starting in a lot of cases. I've noticed, too, you get out with a nice chop early in the morning, those fish are up, but they go down quickly. As soon as that sun comes up or we calm down, had the same thing right by dark. A coworker and friend of mine, Kyle, were out fishing the zone I had been fishing, and it was tough. We're sitting on 4 for a couple hours, and we got into the last 45 minutes of dark, or light, I should say, in that evening bite, and we got up around a nice hump, and boy, we dinged the rest of our fish to get to our 16 quickly. So those fish all of a sudden came in and came up really quick. So they are up at times, but from what I'm seeing, but the bottom fish for me have been the ones that I've been really working over and have been very consistent for me, Mike.
What depths are you looking at? What's been your hot FOW, feet of water?
20 to kind of that 23-foot range has been, 22 feet has been a very common depth I've been running. I try to stay somewhat consistent with my depth of where I'm fishing, because with how I'm fishing and the baits I'm running, I've got them right down by bottom. And if I'm very in depth a lot, I'm dinging bottom with my spoons. And, boy, it seems to be almost even a little worse in some of the areas this year. You get bottom once with one of your baits, you're zebra muscled up heavy. So I like to kind of stick around some consistent depths when I'm working that bottom really close, just to make sure I'm not quite getting on that bottom and not hitting. Once you get into those varying degrees of water depth and you start hitting bottom due to the water depth of variation, then your bait's dead because it's got zebra mussels and debris on it. So I am trying to keep pretty consistent in depth, but 22 feet would be my final answer on that. Yep.
Final answer. We're talking with Brad Dupuie of Apex Marine, the website anglerquestpontoons.com. That's anglerquestpontoons.com. Have to take a quick break, and we'll be right back here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Sheboygan on Big Country Gold, WCBY, AM and FM. That's 1240 AM, 100.7 FM. And you can hear us in Flint on Sports Extra, WTRX, 1330 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Rapid River Knife Works. Everybody uses a knife. Everybody needs a knife. In fact, you probably have a knife in your pocket right now. I do. So why not make it a Michigan-made knife from Rapid River Knife Works? You know I love this. Michigan companies, family-owned companies. Chris Durson has been an expert knife maker for more than 3 decades. He continues that now at Rapid River Knife Works, their website, rapidriverknifeworks.us. We're hoping to do late summer, early fall, to do a Wednesday night live at his beautiful showroom in Rapid River. But in the meantime, if you go to the website, you can see the showroom, you can check out the products, you can buy online. Their knives are guaranteed for life. What more could you ask? rapidriverknifeworks.us. That's rapidriverknifeworks.us. While you're online, please check out my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. And then head on over to anglerquestpontoons.com. And Quest is Qwest, anglerquestpontoons.com. If you have listened to the show at all, you know that I am a huge fan of Angler Quest pontoons. It's changed the way I look at pontoons, the stability, the ride of these big tri-tunes, these triple tube boats. There's all kinds of room. They can handle the waves. I told you about this weird wind that came up the other day out of the northeast, out of the blue, and a lot of the other boats pulled in and they pulled up and they ran in, and I don't blame them. But we stayed out there. I had nothing to worry about with that Angler Quest. Brad Dupuie is the man behind Angler Quest. He's a great guy, a very, very innovative designer, and a hardcore angler as well. Brad, before the break, you were talking about how you are targeting these fish on the bottom on Saginaw Bay this summer. Are we talking fish that are laying right on the bottom, or are these fish that are suspended a couple of feet off the bottom? Or do you even make that distinction?
To be honest with you, most of the fish that I'm marking are actually show as part of the bottom. Occasionally you'll mark them a little bit off. You know, I'm trying to be within really 1 to 2 feet from bottom with my baits. So as long as I see them down in that water column and that bottom 5 feet, I consider those the bottom fish. Now, once again, you see it all the time in Saginaw Bay where those fish come up and down throughout the day. When they're on the bottom, let's say we're running baits back right on bottom, it's pretty common. All of a sudden, those bottom baits go dead, and then we bring them up 5 feet in the water column, and then bang, they're up just a little bit. So for the most part, I just look for those fish kind of blended in with bottom, right on the bottom. But those fish are always moving up and down a few feet throughout the day for whatever reason. Those really attract me when I see those bottom fish. That's really what I look for this year, and so far it's been working really good, Mike.
Are you running spoons or cranks?
I am running 100% spoons. I started running spoons Memorial Day, and I've been 100% that way. This year also that I'm really, I'm targeting those bottom fish, but like what you've always said, you hate to totally abandon those top high fish just to make sure there's not some very active ones. So I'm always keeping a $2 lead core on the very outside of all my spoons. Jet divers and spoons, lead core with spoon, just to make sure I've got some stuff up high. Now, for me, I always found that lead core was very, very effective early in the year and really nice stealthy, presentation in that clear early season water. And with this year, it allows me to give that stealthy presentation, but yet it also allows me to keep a couple baits high just in case there's some fish up there. And they've actually, the last several trips, high lead cores accounted for a lot of fish.
Well, and I learned something about lead core fishing with you. Number one, I didn't used to run a long enough leader on my lead core. And you've also taught me when you're running lead, listen, put that lead way out there in the water. Let some mono backing. Let it out there a ways, because your theory is if you get it out there, that lead kind of moves back and forth and maybe even kind of whips back and forth and has more movement than if you would just clip it to your board right at the end of the lead.
Yeah, I believe getting that nice pendulum and having a nice arc to that line, it's just something that I like to do for my own confidence. Hey, everybody jokes about lead core and how much of a pain that it is to reel up when it's on the outside and back so far. But we all know if one bites it, we're all over it and we'll badly reel in. So
it makes it all worth it.
My leader length is, absolutely way longer than what people do. I do it for stealth, but really one of the biggest reasons I do it is if I have an issue, have a nick in the line, I can keep cutting some of that off and have a good fresh leader that's in good shape. If you only got a few feet, you got to retie up to the lead. To me, that's not worth a darn. I want some sacrificial leader material there to work with.
And how are you getting these spoons? You mentioned jets, but how are you getting these spoons down to that 20-foot depth?
I am using jet divers with 30 jets, and, I'm running them anywhere from 90. If I'm in a 90-foot jet diver with 14-pound test XT main line, I'll start hitting bottom at about 21.6, 21.8 feet with a 30 jet. So I'm using jets and giving it a good distance back, 90 feet in general, 95 if I'm in a little more than 22, sometimes 85 if I'm in that 20-foot range. So I'm just, letting my jets go back there a certain distance, giving them the ability to dive due to the amount of line that I have out. So that's really been my predominant technique, along with keeping some lead up high on the outside.
Of course, you could get there with a bigger jet with less line out, but a 30 jet is kind of the standard, right? Because that seems to be kind of what most people run. So if your buddy's running a 30 jet, if he's running a 30 jet back 60, then if you got a 30 jet, it's like apples to apples type thing.
Yeah, there are a lot of people who run 20s. They say a 20-foot jet will get you down to 30 feet. The dive curves kind of stop at about 125 feet back. They say that a 30 will get you down 40. I myself have run 30s forever because if I'm out off 1 and 2 and I'm close to that 30-foot mark, I can actually get to the fish. With a 20 a jet, I think it's really difficult to get to those super deep fish. So I like running the 30s because it allows me to get the water depth that we have to offer here in Saginaw Bay, and I'm comfortable with them. I know what distance I need to put them out to get to the bottom. So that's what I choose, and 30s I think are becoming a little more prevalent, but there are a lot of guys who run 20s too.
If you're running a 30-foot jet, 90 feet back, that's a lot of drag. Are you running those behind those little offshore, the OR-12s, or what are you pulling them with?
Yeah, I'm using the offshore boards, and you know what I do? Reading the tattle flags is definitely not as optimum in that situation, but with the new boards that they have now, the latest and greatest, they've got like 4 holes in the flag, and they also have 4 holes in the back of the board. So I take that spring and I put it on the top hole on the flag and on the bottom hole on the board itself, and that gives me quite a bit more tension so that flag isn't easily going down like what it would in the other holes.
Sure.
So they have some nice adjustability to the offshore boards these days. So the new ones have all those holes. So those do the job for me. I prefer the orange releases up front. In the event that you have a board, rough conditions, and it dives down on you, you can break that first release free and then be sitting off the red release in the back. So I'm all offshore. They work great. And I don't think I'd run anything different, Mike.
Yeah, well, that's good to hear. I love working with those guys as well. Hey, listen, while I have you, I gotta ask, you're coming up on the 2022 model year. If things go according to as they have before COVID, sometime later in the summer, you'll have a meeting where you bring dealers in to look at the new boats. I'm hearing some rumors about some interesting and exciting design changes. What can you tell us, Brad?
Well, of course, as you know, I'm going to keep a lot of that information close to the chest, but that is a fact. We do have a lot of really cool changes, big differences from how we're doing things now, aesthetically and physically with the actual boat itself. So we're going to make some improvements and some things to help the Angler Qwest design out. So you are right. There are lots of changes, but once again, I'm going to keep that information close to the chest until we get to our September dealer meeting, and then we'll let her rip at that.
And I knew you were going to say that, but I had to ask anyway. I will tell you, I have a little bit of insight, and these are some pretty exciting changes, so I will look forward to you unveiling those. And also, Brad, of course, Angler Qwest started here in Michigan. You're very, very strong here in Michigan now. What about your reach out across the country? How are those marketing plans going? Do people in other states know Angler Qwest?
Well, I tell you, they do. It is a very, very prevalent thing throughout the nation now. Kristen and the whole marketing team have done a great job at getting information out there into the different regions of the United States. We see it often on our request for brochure form on our website. You know, we have people put the information where they're from, obviously, contact information, how they heard about the product, and we are seeing just tons and tons of inquiries from all over the nation. So we wish we could build more due to our current supply chain to help feed all those areas, but until things loosen up a little bit supply-wise, we're a little bit restricted. But yeah, we're seeing things from all over the U.S. From Texas has been really prevalent. That Southeast, the Georgia, Carolinas area. We got a dealer down in Florida who's doing really well.
Wonderful.
We've got Jesse out on Lake Powell in Utah. So it's throughout the nation, and the word is out. And it's been very successful in getting that word out throughout the nation. So that's been a really cool thing to see.
And it all started right here in Michigan. How cool is that? I will tell folks, if you're interested in an Angler Qwest, don't wait till the last minute. I mean, get with your local dealer right now. Get the ball rolling, because as Brad mentioned, supply, like everything else in the outdoors right now, it can be kind of hard to get a hold of one. So get the ball rolling. Go to anglerquestpontoons.com, anglerquestpontoons.com. Check them out. See what's available. See what's out there. Find a local dealer and talk with them and get things rolling. You will not be disappointed. I've had a lot of people on my boat, and they say, Avery, you were right. It performs just as you said it did. And they do. anglerquestpontoons.com. We'll take a break. When we come back, Ian Fitzgerald from MUCC checks in right here on Outdoor Magazine. Welcome back to Outdoor Magazine. My name is Mike Avery. So glad to have you along with us. You can hear the show in Houghton Lake on two stations, the Twister 92.1 WTWS and Powerhouse Blowtorch Powerhouse Station 98.5 WUPS. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Speedy Blaze. Speedy Blaze is a safe, clean, water and insect resistant alternative to firewood. It's safe to cook over because it's made from recycled hardwood. It starts easily. It burns hot. It burns clean. It burns right down to ash. There's no residue. It's wonderful. Whenever we have a fire, I use Speedy Blaze. You can put it in your backyard patio, your grill, your fireplace, your fire pit, anywhere you can burn wood, you can burn Speedy Blaze. Check them out online at speedyblaze.com. That's speedyblaze.com. While you are online, please head on over to the website of the Michigan United Conservation Clubs. That's MUCC.org, MUCC.org. And remember, if you want to save 25% on your MUCC membership, you can use the promo code Mike, all caps, MIKE, and save 25%. How cool is that? Always a pleasure to talk with Ian Fitzgerald of MUCC. He is their policy director, and he's got his finger on the pulse of what's going on in Lansing and across the state. And he's with us once again. Ian, welcome back. How are you?
Thanks, Michael. It's always a pleasure to be here, and especially hot off the heels of a NRC meeting.
So tell me, what's the news?
Yeah, so the news is deer urine-based lures and attractants will remain legal to use. So the proposal that came from the department prior to the June and May meeting was a ban, an all-out ban on deer-based, so synthetic would still be allowed, but deer urine-based lures and attractants. And we really saw commissioners take a fair look. It's not often we're patting them on the back or anything, but I think MUCC doesn't have strong policy on the issue, but we're pleased to see them really digging in.
So this was a surprise.
Yeah, it was. We weren't really expecting to see that from the department. When you consider the risk is much lower of this deer urine than that of baiting or another risk of transmission, it didn't make sense to remove another toolbox for Michigan hunters. So we shared some concerns. Like I said, we don't have strict policy, but we shared those concerns at the commission level. And we saw commissioners really take a look at this, talking to different stakeholders and not just, being that rubber stamp for DNR proposals.
Well, explain to our listeners what this relationship is between DNR and NRC, because I think sometimes people get confused.
Yeah, and it can get wrapped up and be a little confusing, but the NRC is independent of the Department of Natural Resources, and they're appointed by the governor, the positions. They look at science for the manner and method to take, and that's their authority to regulate the manner and method to take for game and fish species. And generally, the department provides proposals to the NRC under guidance of their biologists for fisheries regulations, everything under the sun. But commissioners also have the opportunity to provide their own proposals and come up with their own, amendments so that the other commissioners can weigh in on. So there's kind of two channels where regulation processes can come through. And of course, individuals that want to make a difference are able to call a commissioner and maybe talk about an issue. And the commissioner could, at the very next meeting, provide an amendment to a certain order.
So are you saying that this order could get amended, or is this a done deal for the fall season?
This is a done deal. So at the June meeting, they had voted, and previously, and I think I may have been on the radio talking previously with the deer protection program, used to be in the ATA. That was the seal of approval on all the lures and attractants that you would see that you could use. That's going to be changing to the Responsible Hunting Scent Association. So effectively, nothing really changed. They still are going to be doing CWD testing for all their deer that the urine is from and everything. So status quo.
Well, when I saw your news release the other day, this is the first I've heard of this responsible hunting group. Is this something in addition to ATA? Does this replace ATA? Do you know?
Yeah, so this is a new organization, and it is kind of industry-led. So MUCC had very great concerns, and after speaking with a lot of different stakeholders, some of those concerns were settled, and a lot of the same testing requirements, fencing requirements, the requirements look pretty much identical to the ATA program that was previously in place, the Archery Trade Association.
Yeah, of course, because the concern is, the fox in the chicken coop and that whole line of thinking.
Oh, absolutely. Our heads were spinning at the first thought, but we're pretty assured that the testing and requirements and the protection from the disease management side is going to be exactly the same.
So now are all of the guidelines, all of the rules that we'll be dealing with for the fall hunting season, are those all locked in, or is there yet another NRC meeting before the fall where we might see additional changes?
Well, I'm glad you brought it up because I had a point to mention that at the end. We are probably going to be scheduled for more deregulations in 2021, which, my goodness, but I think we could see that in October or November. But those wouldn't be for the 2020. Those wouldn't be until the 2022 season in effect. So we'll see regs again. But right now, the fall 2021 hunt season should be squared away with regulations. Of course, I hold my breath there.
It's like trying to hit a moving target, no pun intended.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. All right, Ian, listen, I'm glad you are there, and I'm glad the folks at MUCC are there in Lansing to help keep an eye on things and to help figure things out because it can be confusing and maybe sometimes overwhelming. So, Ian Fitzgerald, appreciate the hard work, and everybody at MUCC. Again, the website, mucc.org. That's mucc.org. Save 25% on your MUCC membership, like I did by using the promo code Mike, M-I-K-E, all caps. We'll take a break here. When we come back, this week's Ask Avery segment, kind of an interesting question from a listener, and I'll give you the details after the break. And then coming up in hour number 3, we'll talk guns and shooting with Glenn Duncan of Duncan's Outdoors and wild game chef Dave Minar. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Holland on WHTC, AM and FM. That's 1450 AM, 99.7 FM. And you can hear us in Lansing on WILS, 1320 AM. The Ask Avery segment is brought to you each week by my friends at Security Credit Union. Security Credit Union loves to work with outdoorsmen and women, and they can help you with your next outdoor adventure. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. The way the Ask Avery segment works is you can send me a question. Ask me a question. You can send me an email to Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com, Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. That's probably the best way to do it, Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. However, you can send it to me on any of the social media platforms as well, and I probably will see it. But again, an email to Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com is definitely the best way to do it, and that's what Robert Cummins did this week. And again, the Ask Avery segment, you can ask me a question directly, something you want to know from me, or you can use me as a conduit to ask a question to somebody else, say in Lansing at the DNR or whatever. This time around, though, Robert has a question directly for me. He says, Mike, I know you've heard this before. He said, but I still miss your TV show. Yes, I have heard it before, and I appreciate, it's nice that people say that. He said, I liked your focus on Michigan, but it was fun to watch a Michigan guy like you hunting and fishing in some places that most of us will never get to go. He said, what were some of the highlights? He said, and do you miss it? I'll answer the second part first. No, I don't miss it. I don't miss television at all. Television was fun for many years, but it was a weekly, it was a daily grind. There's a lot in putting together a 28-minute and 25-second weekly TV show week after week after week. I don't miss that. I don't miss the grind. I don't miss the pressure. And I actually don't miss the travel. I'm very happy at this point in my life to be completely based here in Michigan. But he says, what were some of the highlights? I had a chance to do some very cool things. I was thinking about this. In fact, I was putting together a list as I sat in the parking lot here at the studio this morning. Fishing. I had a chance to fish marlin off Cabo San Lucas, the tip of the Baja Peninsula, which was an amazing experience. I've been bone fishing in the Keys. I've been bass fishing on Lake Okeechobee down in Florida. A salmon and halibut fishing in Alaska. And, of course, fishing every one of the Great Lakes. I fished every one of the Great Lakes except for Lake Ontario. And I'll probably make it out there eventually. Hunting, whitetail. Of course, I whitetail hunted in Michigan, Ohio, Illinois, Nebraska, Kansas, Ontario, and Manitoba. And so those experiences were cool. I don't pretend to be a hardcore whitetail hunter, but of course, when you're doing an outdoor television show, you gotta get the whitetail hunts in there. I will be going out of state this fall for a whitetail hunt with Bill Piles of Ohio Bow Hunting Outfitters, a group of my friends and listeners of the show here. We've got together and we put together an outing there in, I think it's early October, maybe late September. And of course, I'll be whitetail hunting here in Michigan again. Bear hunting, which I absolutely love. Got to go bear hunting here in Michigan, but in Ontario, Manitoba, and Quebec. The first bear hunt I ever went on in my life was for the TV show. It was in Manitoba. I shot a bear. He was a small bear, I'll admit it, but that first bear that walks into a bait to a first-time hunter always looks like a monster, and oftentimes never is. Enjoyed some very nice springtime bear hunts in Quebec. I really missed going up there. But of course, I've fallen in love with bear hunting in Ontario, White River, with Ron St. Louis of Northern Wilderness Bear Outfitters, and I'm praying fervently for a Michigan bear tag this fall. We will know July 6th. We, being all of us who have bear and elk permits in, will know on July 6th. Also, as far as hunting, I did some hog hunting in Florida. That was an interesting situation. I'd never done that before. I've never done it since. Would I do it again? Probably. Top of my list? No, but it was something different to do. Same thing with axis deer hunting. Axis deer hunting was interesting. Probably would never choose to do it again, but to have a chance to hunt a different critter in a different environment. I mean, you're sitting there in the Florida, in the heat of Florida, in the summertime, in short sleeve shirts, sunglasses, sweating like crazy, and a herd of 200 axis deer come in. It was kind of fun. It was interesting. I have been elk hunting in Colorado. I did not get an animal. But will be. I did put in for an elk tag here in Michigan for this fall, and again, I put in for a cow tag this year, and I'm thinking I'll probably get it just because I put in a cow tag. And of course, those hunts in Africa, I've been to Africa twice. The critters, the scenery, the culture, that was a very interesting, very eye-opening experience. I did it twice. Would I go back? Nope. Been there, done that, saw some things I really loved, saw some things I didn't like, but I can say I did it, and I have some pretty cool trophies, and we fed some native people from it. So thank you for that question. I do appreciate it, and thank you to the folks at Security Credit Union for helping to make each week's Ask Avery segment possible. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. We'll take a break for the top of the hour. When we come back, Glenn Duncan and how things are changing in the ammo and shooting industry right here on Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay Sporting Goods, the Yider Insurance Group, Angler Qwest Pontoons and Polarcraft Boats, The Forward Corporation, Primal Tree Stands, Shadow Hunter Blinds, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Yes, indeed. This is the big guy, Mike Avery. Thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine show right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network. I'm so glad you're along with us. Really, because if you weren't listening, there'd be no reason to do this show or to put together the podcast version of the show, or no reason to do all the social media stuff. And it would break my heart, for one thing, because I do truly enjoy this. It is a blessing to be able to do something for as long as I have and still enjoy it. I mean, I talk with people every day who say, man, I don't like this. I'm just putting my hours in. I'm just trying to get to retirement. I'm trying to get vested or whatever. And I can't relate to that because I truly enjoy this. I think I don't know. I think there's a reason that I don't know. I enjoy it. I have no plans to retire. God's plans are not my plans. I've become acutely aware of that in a couple of situations I've dealt with lately, and I accept that. But again, I couldn't do this without your support, and thank you so much. I would encourage you, if you're new to this radio show, I appreciate it. Stick around, listen. We're here every week for 3 hours. I do a podcast version of the show that you can hear just about anywhere. I'm active on social media. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn. I think that's it. You can always reach me by email. My email address is mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. What we talk about here on the show is hunting and fishing and shooting and trapping. The consumptive side of the outdoors. I don't talk much about hiking or boating or camping. Not that those aren't honorable and viable and wonderful and fun things to do. But I tend to concentrate on the more consumptive side of the outdoors that to be honest with you, I think needs all the support it can get these days. Because here in Michigan, we are drastically outnumbered by people who do not hunt, fish, shoot, or trap. I'm not saying the antis. We've got three different groups here, right? There are many of us on one side of the issue who are hardcore enthusiasts who live and think about and participate in outdoor activities as much as we can. Then you've got the people on the other side of the spectrum who think what we do is barbaric, inhumane, unnecessary, and should be illegal. I can't relate to that way of thinking, but they're out there. But then you've got the vast majority of people, maybe 80% of the population, who choose not to participate, but they're not antis, they're not against it. And those are the people that we need to continue to put our best foot forward, to continue to portray our best, put the best face on it. And it's easy, right? Because we are paying for conservation. What we're doing is biologically sound. It's easy to make hunters and anglers look good because we are good. I saw a couple of interesting things lately, though. I was up to Jay's Sporting Goods the other day, and they had more ammo on the shelves than I've seen in a long time. I was in a Duncan's outdoor shop last week, and they had ammo on the shelves. And I'm hearing this across the board. And, we went through such a tough time. Is this over? Should we get excited? What does this all mean? And I thought, hey, I'll turn to my friend Glenn Duncan of Duncan's Outdoor Shop in Bay City. The guy is a master gunsmith. He's been in the shooting and hunting industry his entire life. He is not just involved here at the state level, but he is very closely involved at the federal level. He knows the players personally, and he's always a great resource. Glenn, I appreciate your time. How are you?
Great, doing great. Thank you for asking.
Well, listen,
No?
Okay, it's been good talking to you. That'll wrap up this edition of. I don't know where to start because I have a couple of key things I want to talk about. But let's talk about this ammo situation. Is the shortage over?
No, by no means. The manufacturers are what they're doing right now is they're trying to. The key ammo, the 9mm, the 450 for Michigan ammo, the 350 ammo, they're really, really trying to find what they need to be making right now for the demand that's out there right this minute. And we know that hunting season's coming up, and we know that this last couple of years a lot of 450 rifles were sold. So we were lucky enough to get 30-some cases of it in. And it's one box per person, but so that we can pass it around because I get calls every day, can I buy a case of ammo? And if it was that way, 30 people would get ammo, the rest of us wouldn't. So we got to make it fair. And primers is still a shortage, and that's the biggest problem right now. Is I was talking to Steve Hornaday from Hornaday Ammo, and he says, Glenn, I can make brass and bullets 2/3 of the time it takes to build the brass and bullets. I got another third to get that primer, just that primer made. And so it takes more time to build one primer
than it takes to build a piece of brass and a bullet together. And so Hornady is out buying primers. I was talking to Tom Taylor at SIG, and SIG is buying their primers from. They don't have a priming machine, so that shuts them down sometimes and cuts their production down because of not being able to make primers. Now, we talked about the other day Fiocchi. Fiocchi now has their machines for making primers in the United States in Maryland, or not American, Arkansas, and they started that machine up about 4 weeks ago. So they're making primers. Remington now is making primers, and so that's going to make it great. Remington's making ammo right now, so that's helping because we lost Remington for a whole year. We lost some of the other companies. Production was slowed down because of primers.
If all these companies ramp up production as they are, we get our supplies up there, people's demand drops, and then the demand for these products drops. Are these companies going to be left holding the bag again with all this extra capacity? Is this this is a big money decision they're making right now, isn't it?
They are big time. Companies are spending money for new machines. Hornady, again, talking to Steve this last week, they're waiting for two new machines coming in. Those two new machines are going to help out because they'll push to give some more product out. But the other side of it, a lot of these companies are getting some old machinery, and they're hoping that they can keep the old machine running and get this new in to help cover this gap in here. But then these old machines are going to go away because they are old machines, and so that's their plan right now. So they're not going to be. They don't need to be having all those machines running 2 years from now. They'll run the new machines.
Glenn, you talk about these players at the national level that you talk with personally. How did this all start? How did you find yourself? I mean, a Michigan businessman. How did you find yourself in a position where you can pick up the phone and call these guys and they take your call?
63 years, and it's just that when I was a little kid and stuff, my dad and mom, we went from the archery business, like and went into the gun business and stuff. And then got into shooting the national matches for 18 years. I was at the national matches. And I got to meet the top people in the world, in the shooting world and stuff, and got to work with the top armors in the world. And they don't forget you. And so then working through the years and stuff and expanding my knowledge and stuff to be able to. Back then, you could go to a factory. You could study at a factory. And I was lucky enough to be blessed to be able to do that. And nowadays, people don't get to do that. And then when I go to the SHOT Show and all these other shows that we go to, we get to meet the presidents of the companies and stuff. And my biggest thing is going to SHOT Shows. Yes, I want to see all the new products, but I also want to find out who has what job. Every year, like most businesses right now, years ago, you went to work for 50 years at General Motors or someplace. Now everybody goes to work for 10 years, and they're looking for new jobs someplace else. And that's the thing in our industry. People are moving right and left, and so I have to find out every year who's got the job. So when I need a part, who do I call? And if you don't get the answers you want, and so I try to get the higher level. So when I don't get what I want, and it's not that I shouldn't say it that way, but when things aren't working right, I have a number for a higher level. Yeah, I need help. I'm not being able to get this, or I can't do this, and how can we get it done? So it takes many years to get to that level.
We're talking with Glenn Duncan of Duncan's Outdoor Shop in Bay City. The website, duncansoutdoor.com, duncansoutdoor.com. We got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. But when we come back, a lot more questions for Glenn. We talked about, the fact that there seems to be some ammo that just here in the last couple of weeks has popped up here in Michigan. Glenn says don't look for that necessarily to continue, or at least he says the ammo shortage is not over. I also want to talk with Glenn about something I brought up earlier in the show, because Glenn, as I say, is actively and intimately involved in gun rights, Second Amendment stuff, not just here in Michigan, but at the national level. I want to throw out something that I saw last weekend in Detroit with a couple of open carry guys, and I want to get Glenn's thoughts on this. Is this good for the cause, or does it hurt things? Again, his website is duncansoutdoor.com. That's duncansoutdoor.com. We'll take a break. More with Glenn, and of course, we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Minar. That's right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Ludington on News 97, 98, 98.7 WLDN. You can hear us on the other side of the state in Port Huron, WPHM 1380 AM. And let's go up in the thumb. Sandusky, WMIC 660 AM and 95.3 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Wilds Plumbing and Heating. Plumbing, heating, air conditioning, sump pumps, water heaters, furnaces, you name it, ductwork cleaning, anything to keep your house running smoothly, to keep you comfortable, warm, or cool, depending on the season, and dry. The folks from Wilds can help you out, as they have for me for so many years. They've done a great job. Every time I have invited them into my house, they have taken care of my problem, and sometimes found problems I didn't even know that I had yet. So they've saved me some money and saved me some time and saved me some headache and saved me some grief. They can do the same for you. Check them out online at wildsplumbingandheating.com. That's wildsplumbingandheating.com. And while you're online, of course, my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, head on over to Duncan'sOutdoor.com. Duncan'sOutdoor.com is the website of Duncan's Outdoor Shop in Bay City. Glenn Duncan, a second generation in that business. Glenn, I noticed the last couple of weeks when I've been on your Facebook page, you guys are showing a lot of pictures of guns. Now, what about the gun supply? Is that easing up now, too, or did you pull some magic out of your hocus pocus hat?
Oh, well, again, we've been lucky. I got to say that being in business for 63 years has made it great for us, because the manufacturer's attitude is, Glenn, we're not going to make you suffer. That you've been in supporting us for this long. Why would we want to not hurt? Why we want to hurt you? And so that's the answer. And we're lucky. Smith & Wesson, we do so much with them in Springfield and in SIG that we order. Some of those orders are a year and a half old, and so it's not that we just got them in the last minute. We've been working on it for a long time to get where we're at.
A year and a half, Glenn?
Yep.
Wow.
A year and a half ago, when the pandemic just got started, we were putting orders in, and even when it got started, we were still working on orders and stuff and trying to keep track of where the orders are and how things are going. And so it takes time.
And it's got to be changing constantly, right? I mean, this is still it's still a fluid situation, I would think.
It is. And now with the laws and stuff that they keep talking about, braces and that kind of stuff, that sales are slowing down. So we're getting with manufacturers as soon as we see a twitch in the industry that we're going to make a change and stuff, and being able to keep up to that level.
You were talking about your relationship with manufacturers. I remember it wasn't too long ago that Smith & Wesson came out with a Duncan's edition of, I think it was a 4.42 revolver. It had a Duncan's logo on the side. How cool was that?
It was fantastic. We're still the only gun shop that's ever had a logo put on Smith & Wesson gun by the factory putting them on. And it was a 4.38 it was supposed to be, and they put them on 4.42 guns. And so if you're one of the 125 that got the 4.42 written, stamped on a 4.38 model, you have a collector now. And then if you have a 4.38 with our logo, then there's only 79 of those out, and so those are collecting now.
Well,
we've been really lucky. And just a note, we went through my dad's house the other day and found the gun that Smith & Wesson presented to him for having the company and starting the company 50 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And it's so neat to find.
That is very, very, very cool. I have one of those revolvers, but remind me the difference between a 4.42 and a 4.38.
A 4.38 hammer is a hammer-shrouded pistol.
Okay.
And a 4.42 does not have a hammer showing at all.
That's what I got, the 4.42. Okay. Are you still as big a proponent of revolvers for concealed carry as you used to be?
Yes. Revolvers are so dependable. And yes, it's nice to have 12 rounds and 14 rounds and stuff, but the old day that policemen actually practice, and when they practice, the average shootout was normally 2.5 shots. Now the average shootout is 14 or 15 rounds. So what they do is they get shooting and they don't stop. And as a defensive shooter, you want to shoot a couple shots and you want to look around and see, is there somebody else I need to be looking for, or is everything stopped now? What do I need to do? And when you got 14 rounds, you're just hoping and praying you get the first shots off first that are more accurate than the person that's shooting at you. So you want to make sure that first 2 shots are important. You don't want to just waste ammo.
Speaking of self-defense and concealed carry and open carry, I had a situation last weekend in Detroit that really got my attention. I want to get your thoughts on this. Downtown Detroit, after a birthday celebration out with my wife and daughter and her boyfriend. Walking down the street, I see 2 guys on the opposite side of the street coming our direction. They're dressed in black tactical gear. One of them has a tactical helmet on. They're both wearing body armors. They've got tactical belts on. One of them is carrying an AR-15 openly. I mean, across the front of in front of him with both hands. The other one has, I hate to use the term assault rifle, but I don't know how else to describe it. It was a long black gun, bigger than an AR, but it was that type of gun. Mm-hmm. They were not bad guys, from what I could tell. They were just maybe trying to make a point and maybe trying to get people's attention, and they got mine. But I'm not convinced, Glenn, that this type of activity really helps the Second Amendment cause and the pro-gun cause, and I'm curious what you think of it.
I agree. Concealed carry was brought in for a reason, and there's a good reason for it. And open carry is back to the old Western days where we had to challenge people and let people know I have a gun and I'm ready to defend myself. Well, those days we thought were gone, and now with concealed carry and stuff. Yes, I want to make myself comfortable that my surroundings are in the same level that I'm in and thinking the same level I'm thinking. But if they're not, I can protect myself. And I have a really rough time with the idea of these guys that dressed into the hilt of all the black clothes and all with the idea that they're in the military or have the idea that they need part of the militia and stuff. If you are, join the militia, join the military, be a policeman, be somebody. And but when you're just a civilian and you're living in the civilian world, dress like a civilian. We talk about nationalities and stuff, and people dressing like their nationality. We're not in a country that is there to take on the world. We're in a country to go and have peace with the world, and we want to go and protect ourselves, but not have to tell everybody in the world, I'm here to protect you and everybody else.
Just because something is legal, and it was legal what they were doing, doesn't necessarily make it the smartest thing, does it?
No, it gives the others a lot of people uncomfort.
Yeah.
And that is not our goal, is to make people uncomfortable. We want to go and make you comfortable and all of us look equal.
Yeah, it just and listen, this did happen in downtown Detroit, but I have to say, and I want to make sure I say, the rest of the trip was wonderful. It was a very good experience. It just got off kind of on the wrong foot with that, and it was because my wife Denise said, "Well, are those cops?" I said, "No, those aren't cops. Why they're walking down the street in full battle gear, battle rattle, and black guns in front of them, I don't know, except to make a point."
Right. And it's the CCW classes and stuff that people that take the time to study the law and work knowing that they know the law and stuff. Yes, there's a lot of people that do open carry, and they 90% of them don't know the law. They just know that they can open carry. When you take a CCW class and go through all the steps and stuff, not some of these one-day classes, as you know, we've talked to you before, a one-day class there's no university-level class that's a one-day class. And we're trying to become a concealed carry person in a one day, you're really stretching it. And that's why ours is one night a week for 5 weeks, because we want you to shoot more. We want you to be educated more. We want you, when you do to protect yourself, have thought patterns in your head that you thought about it for 5 weeks. And in between those classes, I know you're thinking about it. You just don't walk out the door and forget about it until next week. You're thinking about it all week long. And so I have you for 5 weeks thinking and studying what goes on in your mind and what goes on around me.
When I took my class from you guys, of course, I at that point I really learned just what a top level gunsmith you are. I mean, you're a master gunsmith. Glenn, is that a lost art, or is there still a demand, a need out there for working gunsmiths?
It is not what it used to be, and it's in the manufacturers and the gunsmithing schools have changed so much because the guns are built now that interchangeable parts, just like the Model T was built, and the idea was that we're going to build these parts and they'll be interchangeable and stuff and simple. Then we get the cars that we have now that nobody can work on. And we're in the industry in guns right now that you can go online, you can study what about your gun and do a lot of your own repair. Yes, there's different levels of gunsmiths and stuff where I would classify as a super armor of Glock and stuff. There's millions of armors, but when you get to my level, there's only 100 and some of us at that
100 in the whole country?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. And so it's just not higher level. And we spend a lot of time with our gunsmiths. We send them to different schools and stuff to get up to date. And just because you can go online and study an AR, we send our guys out to actually study at the top level schools and stuff. So they know more about an AR than just being able to put them together and taking them apart.
Well, and that's a platform I would like to learn more about. I'd like to come in sometime and just talk to you and go through it sometime, because I'm fascinated by them. They're like Tinker Toys for guns, but anyway, I get off track. Hey, Glenn, always a pleasure. I would encourage people to check out the website, duncansoutdoor.com, duncansoutdoor.com, and to stop in and see you guys. And I see you've actually been able to restrict some of your COVID regulations, and it feels like it's more business as usual now.
I love it. It's going to be, and you were just talking about ARs. We'll be putting on AR classes again and totally how to tear your AR apart and clean it and maintain it and stuff. And now, I'm watching the governor and watching OSHA and everything else to make sure we're safe and you're safe around us and stuff, so that we can do that stuff again and get back to the world we used to know. Out
of time, but let me know when that AR class comes up. Glenn Duncan of Duncan's Outdoor Shop in Bay City, the website duncansoutdoor.com, duncansoutdoor.com. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. A few more thoughts as we get ready to wrap up this week's Outdoor Magazine. And, of course, we'll do that with wild game chef Dave Minar coming up. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Manistee on WMLQ 97.7 FM. Just down the road in Muskegon, WKBZ 1090 AM. And over on the other side of the state in Saginaw, News Radio 790 and 100.5 WSGW. In fact, I am in their studios right now during this 3 hours, though. It's called the Outdoor Magazine Studio. And here with Charlie Rood doing a wonderful job, as always, as he turns. And the people who show up to watch this show, and they're redoing the parking lot on the east side of us. So the crowd has had to gather on the west side of the station. They're lined up, peering in the windows, trying to get a glance at Charlie Rood. We had to call in a private security company to shoo him out of here because the employees couldn't even get in here and get out of work. But welcome to my world, dealing with people of this caliber. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Reader Landscaping. Reader can take care of your lawn and property because it's your nature and our nurture. Let Reader create an outdoor getaway in your backyard as they have in our backyard. Drought right now. Don't forget about the sprinkler systems. Reader can maintain that. I've got them coming over here in the next week or two to do some trimming of some trees around the perimeter of the house. growing a little bit too bushy. They're rubbing up against the house in the wind, and I don't like that. They take care of our insect repellent or our insect treatments and our fertilizer. I'm doing the mowing. I like doing the mowing. It's good exercise, but everything else I rely on the folks at Reeder for. And you can as well. Check them out online at reederlandscaping.com. That's Reeder, R-E-D-E-R, reederlandscaping.com. Let's see what's on my list here. A couple of things. Oh, happy Father's Day weekend to you. Dads, happy Father's Day. Father-in-law Jury, son James, son-in-law Ben, happy Father's Day to you guys. And happy Father's Day weekend to me as well. Let's see. Fishing. My trips on Saginaw Bay continue to get a little better every time out there. By a little better, I mean a few more fish. Every trip on the water to me is wonderful, and it's a blessing. And this year what it is a learning experience for me, because the shallow water fishery that I'm kind of dialed into for the last several years is non-existent, primarily because of the clear water. Although I made a quick pass up in there the other day just to check it out, and the watercolor was pretty good, but there weren't any fish. So I'm concentrating on these deeper fish. We talked in hour number 2 with Brad Dupuie of Qwest about how to target these deeper fish. So I'm learning from these guys, and it's actually good, I think, because like most people, like most human beings, I will go, because I guess I'm probably basically lazy, I will go with the easiest route. If I can do something in hunting or fishing, or probably life in general, that if I do a certain thing and it provides results, I'm probably going to do the same thing next time around because it's going to provide results. Why look for some new way to do something if what you're doing now is working? Well, in my case, what I had been doing in previous years that was working isn't an option now. So I've got to branch out, and I've got to try new tactics and techniques and new areas. And it's kind of, once I got past the initial frustration of it, it's kind of fun. It's kind of a challenge, and I'm enjoying it. So we'll see. We'll see. Anxiously awaiting July 6th, I think it is, when we learn here in Michigan about the elk and bear tags. I find myself kind of looking forward to the fall hunting season this year, maybe more than I have in the past, and I'm not sure why. You know, in the past, I knew I had an Ontario bear hunt coming just around the corner, and that, of course, would have me just cranked up and ready to go. Too early to say for sure that won't happen. I was talking with Ron St. Louis of Northern Wilderness Bear Outfitters in White River, Ontario yesterday. He said he's still up in the air. He's playing it day by day. It's not looking good, obviously, but wouldn't it be nice on July 6th to go to the DNR website and see, congrats, Avery, you got a bear tag in Michigan. That would make me a happy, happy guy. Promo codes, go to outdoorpregame.com, go to michiganbrandmeats.net and MUCC.org. You can use my promo codes to save some money at each one of those websites. Please don't send me any more pictures of snakes on the Facebook page. You can go ahead, but I'm not going to enjoy it. I'll share them. Snakes are one of these things. And I had Johnny Bowler, the guy I had bear hunt with, he said, how can you not be afraid of a 300-pound black bear and you're scared to death of a 2-foot garter snake? And they're not gardener snakes. They are garter snakes. That's a good question, Johnny, and I don't have an answer for it. But I do not like snakes. And yes, I have to admit, I'm like borderline afraid of them. One time I was turkey hunting, and I had a thermos of coffee with me, and I had it sitting on the ground, and, you know, it was real early. It was just getting daylight, and I reached down to grab my thermos, and I touched something that wasn't a thermos, and I thought, that's odd, and then it moved, and I realized it was a snake, and I think I screamed like a little girl, and I jumped up and I knocked the blind right off the top of me. And I thought, man, am I glad I don't have a camera on this right now. So, yes, I don't like snakes. But if you want to share them, if you're looking for ID or whatever, send them to the Facebook page. In fact, anything in the Facebook page, questions, comments, whatever, your trophy pictures, I'd be happy to share them. And as always, if you want to get in touch with me, probably the best way is via email. My email address is mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. That's mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. We'll take a break and wrap it all up with Wild Game Chef Dave Minar coming up after this. Welcome back to Outdoor Magazine. My name is Mike Avery, the big guy. So glad to have you along with us, and so glad to have the chance each week to wrap up the show with Wild Game Chef extraordinaire Dave Minar. I've worked with Dave for many, many years. Continue to be impressed and in awe of his abilities, of his expertise, and his knowledge. And as we are recording the show, I always talk to him just about noontime, and his recipes make my mouth water. I'll be honest with you. Dave, what do you got for us this week, my friend?
I got a pan-seared and simmered walleye.
That'll do it.
Oh, man. How you been fishing, have you?
Yeah, I've been fishing, been on the water quite a bit. Not catching the number of fish that I do in a normal year, but plugging away at it and having a lot of fun. How about you? Have you been out?
I know I haven't. I've been working at the restaurant, working at the cabin, working at home. It's just, it's nuts. So my schedule, I can't even imagine I get any sleep lately. So, but anyway, that's par for the course. I did speak to people that off of Pinconning, they've been great on perch, and I talked to a guy this morning. 3 of them eliminated out in about an hour and a half on walleye.
Oh yeah, the folks who are into them are really into them this summer. That's for sure. And it's always nice to hear perch reports. That's for sure. Yep.
They got some big ones, too. So.
Good.
Anyway, let's get to this walleye recipe. So this is going to be for about 4 portions. You need about 8 to 10 ounces of boneless, skinless filet per person. Try to get them about the same size so this all cooks pretty much even when you're done, because it's a pretty fast recipe here. You need one of them packages of fresh baby spinach leaves, Take the stems off, and they're usually very nice and clean. So you might want to chop through them just a little bit, them leaves of the spinach. You need a medium onion diced fine, 3 cloves of garlic diced real fine. I like a nice big red pepper in here, and you want to de-seed that and dice that kind of small. You need about 3/4 of a jar of chicken gravy. And I like to put smoked fish in here. It really boosts up the flavor, just something like you can't believe. And so you need about 2 to 3 ounces of that just to give it a lot of flavor, And you need about a half a pound of shrimp. If you're going to use bigger ones, cut them in maybe by thirds. Take the tail off. If you're going to use the salad shrimp, about a half a cup of that, or about a cup of that, I should say. 2 to 3 ounces of heavy cream, 2 beaten up eggs very well. You want to make sure that it's all incorporated real good, because if you have some of the white, it'll just slide right off the fish. So you need a couple ounces of dry white wine. If you're going to have a Chardonnay or something dry like that, a Rhine, by all means use the same wine to cook with. Half a bunch of scallions sliced through that, flour, olive oil, and a little bit of white pepper. And you want to, I like to top this with some fresh scallions sliced real thin. So as usual, we're going to dredge the fish in flour, beaten up eggs, and a little bit of olive oil in a real nice hot pan. Start it with the rib side down, and so when it's nice and brown, flip it over, and so the rib side will be facing the diner. You just want to brown it on both sides, and you can put this to an oven-proof casserole, probably better than a baking sheet, because it's going to have quite a fair amount of liquid. So you can wipe the pan out a little bit with a paper towel and take the onions and the pepper and kind of get that sauteing up a little bit. And then you can add the wine, the gravy, and just about everything else. Bring that up to a nice boil. And then just before you're going to top the fish with this, you want to add the coarsely chopped spinach and the shrimp. Bring that up to a real nice boil. taste it and see if this is what you're looking for. Sometimes I've put mace in this or just a little dash of nutmeg, and that real between the smoked fish and that, you can't believe it, the flavor booster you're going to get. So if it tastes nice to you, pour it over your fish fillets, bake it 350-degree oven uncovered. Man, maybe 4 or 5 minutes. Nice rollicking boil. Boiling real good in the oven, it's done. Don't forget, that fish is pretty well partially cooked already. So when you serve this, take the filet, put it on everybody's plate, spoon all of that sauce all around, and then top with some sliced scallions. This is a great dish. I mean, the flavor, you can still taste the walleye, but the smoked fish and the pepper and everything enhances that it's just a burst of flavor in your mouth. You're going to love it. Something different other than just baking it or deep frying it. And it's not that difficult. Just get your stuff all together, and it takes just a few minutes to put this recipe together.
And it sounds wonderful, and the different tastes. What a great combination, Dave. Always a pleasure. I'm always amazed that you come up with these wonderful dinners, and I appreciate you sharing them with us each week here on the show.
Stop in and see us before July. We'll be open.
Before July, you'll be open. All right, there's a challenge right there. Wild Game Chef Dave Minar says Oscar and Joey's will be open soon. You can find him in Birch Run, and we will look forward to that. Always a pleasure, Dave. Talk to you next week, my friend.
Thank you.
Wild Game Chef extraordinaire Dave Minar, a big part of the Outdoor Magazine show, as are you, because if you weren't listening, there'd be no reason to do the show. I would encourage you to check out the website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. You can find me on social media, on Facebook, on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. Where else? I don't know. And, of course, our Wednesday night live shows. We're live online every Wednesday night at 7 o'clock Eastern. I also go live from the studio Wednesday mornings at 8:45 as well. I hope you can check that out. And if you want, you can reach me via email, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. Talk to you next week right here on Outdoor Magazine. I'd like